Welcome to Books Arena. Today, we explore Eat That Frog by Tracy, a powerful guide to conquering procrastination, increasing productivity, and achieving more in less time. The central idea of this book is simple yet life-changing: your frog is your biggest, most important, and most challenging task. If you start each day by eating that frog, meaning you tackle your most difficult and impactful task first, you will experience greater success, momentum, and confidence in all areas of life. In this detailed audiobook presentation, we will dive into 7 key principles from the book, each offering practical tools and clear strategies you can use immediately. You will learn how to set clear goals, plan effectively, prioritize, and develop the discipline to take consistent action. By the end, you will be ready to stop procrastinating, focus on what truly matters, and transform the way you approach your daily work and long-term goals. Part 1: The Power of Clarity, 800 words. The first and most important step in achieving high productivity is clarity. Without a clear sense of direction, it is impossible to know what your frog is. Clarity means you know exactly what you want to achieve and why it is important. Without it, you risk spending your days reacting to whatever comes your way rather than proactively working toward your goals. Tracy explains that one of the main reasons people procrastinate is because they are uncertain about their priorities. If you are not completely sure which task will produce the greatest result, you will naturally gravitate toward easy, low-value activities. This is why defining your goals in precise terms is so important. To gain clarity, you must set specific goals. A goal such as "I want to be more successful" is vague and unhelpful. Instead, say, "I will increase my income by 20% this year by closing 5 new high-value contracts by the end of the 4th quarter. This goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, a method often called the SMART goal framework. Writing your goals down is critical. Studies have consistently shown that people who write their goals are far more likely to achieve them than those who do not. The process of writing forces you to think more clearly about what you want and how you intend to achieve it. Keep your written goals visible on your desk, on your phone, or in your planner so they remain front of mind. After writing your goals, break them into actionable steps. Large, complex goals can feel overwhelming, which often leads to procrastination. By breaking a goal into smaller, manageable parts, you make it easier to take the first step. For example, if your goal is to write a book, your steps might include outlining chapters, researching topics, and setting daily writing targets. Tracy recommends starting each day by asking yourself, "If I could do only one thing today that would make the biggest positive difference in my life, what would it be?" This question forces you to identify the single most valuable use of your time. That answer is your frog, and it is the task you should do before anything else. Clarity also involves knowing your values. What matters most to you in the long term? Your daily choices should reflect your core values, because when they do, your motivation will be stronger and your work more meaningful. Many people confuse activity with productivity. They stay busy but accomplish little of real value. Clarity prevents this trap because it directs your energy toward tasks that align with your ultimate objectives. Each day becomes a deliberate step toward your larger vision rather than a random series of unrelated actions. To practice clarity, decide exactly what you want in each area of your life: career, health, relationships, finances. Write your goals down in detail. Break each goal into a list of actionable steps. Organize these steps by priority and sequence. Start each day with your most important task. Clarity is not a one-time exercise. It requires regular review and adjustment. Your goals and circumstances will change over time, so revisit them often to ensure they still reflect your priorities. When you operate with clarity, you begin each day with purpose and confidence. You eliminate unnecessary distractions because you know exactly what deserves your attention. This mental focus allows you to channel your time, energy, and resources into actions that create real progress. Over weeks and months, these focused actions compound into extraordinary results. Clarity is the foundation for everything else in Eat That Frog. Without it, even the best productivity techniques will have little effect. But with it, you will find it easier to make decisions, take action, and persevere through challenges because you always know why you are doing what you are doing. Part 2: Plan every day in advance, 800 words. Planning is the bridge between your goals and your daily actions. Without a plan, you are vulnerable to distractions, interruptions, and other people's priorities. Tracy recommends spending 10 to 15 minutes each evening planning the next day in detail. This small investment of time can save you hours of wasted effort. The first step in daily planning is to make a list. Write down every task you need to complete, no matter how small. Putting your tasks on paper clears mental clutter and allows you to see the full scope of what needs to be done. Once everything is listed, you can begin to organize and prioritize. One of the most effective prioritization methods is the ABCDE system. A tasks are the most important your frogs. They have serious consequences if not completed. B tasks are important but have only mild consequences. C tasks are nice to do but have no significant consequences. D tasks should be delegated to others whenever possible. E tasks should be eliminated entirely because they do not contribute to your goals. Once you categorize your list, focus on your A1 task, the single most important item. This should be the first thing you work on in the morning, before anything else. A plan also gives you a sense of control. When you know exactly what you need to do and in what order, you reduce decision fatigue and stress. Instead of constantly asking yourself, what should I do next, you simply follow the plan you created. Planning also helps you anticipate obstacles. If you know a task will require certain resources, information, or people, you can arrange for them in advance, avoiding delays. An important part of planning is scheduling time blocks for deep work periods when you focus on a single important task without interruptions. Protect these blocks as you would important meetings. The key principle here is that every minute spent planning can save you 10 minutes in execution. Over time, this can translate to hundreds of hours saved each year. By ending each day with a clear plan for the next, you also create a psychological benefit. You sleep better because your mind is not busy trying to remember what you need to do. You wake up with a clear direction, ready to take action. Planning every day in advance is not just about organization, it is about deliberately designing your day so that it serves your long-term goals. It ensures that your time and energy are spent on tasks that truly matter, rather than being consumed by distractions and low-value activities. Part 3. Apply the 80-20th rule to everything, 800 words. The 80-20th rule, also known as the Pareto principle, is a concept that can completely transform how you work. It states that roughly 80% of your results come from 20% of your activities. The challenge is identifying which 20% of your tasks contribute the most to your success and focusing your efforts there. Brian Tracy emphasizes that not all tasks are of equal value. In fact, most of what we do each day has little real impact on our long-term success. We tend to spend too much time on urgent but low-value tasks because they are easier and less intimidating than the truly important ones. Unfortunately, this habit keeps us busy without moving us meaningfully forward. To apply the 80-20th rule, start by examining your to-do list. Ask yourself, if I could only do one task on this list, which one would contribute the most to my success? That task is almost always part of the top 20%. Next, ask, if I could only do 2 tasks. And so on. Very quickly, you will identify the few high-value activities that deserve your focus. Consider an example in sales. A salesperson may have dozens of potential clients, but only a handful will become major buyers. By concentrating efforts on these high-value prospects rather than spreading time equally among all, the salesperson dramatically increases results. The same principle applies to other areas of life. In health, perhaps 20% of your habits like exercising regularly and eating nutritious foods contribute 80% of your physical well-being. In relationships, 20% of your interactions create 80% of the closeness and trust you share. Once you identify the high-value tasks, you must discipline yourself to work on them first, even if they are challenging. These tasks are often your frogs, the ones that require effort and concentration but yield significant rewards. An important part of applying the 80-20th rule is eliminating or delegating the low-value tasks that consume most of your time. This might mean saying no to certain requests, automating repetitive processes, or delegating responsibilities to others. The goal is to free up as much time as possible for the high-value work that creates real results. Brian Tracy warns that it is easy to fall into the trap of majoring in minors, spending hours perfecting tasks that have little overall impact while neglecting the work that could make a substantial difference. To avoid this, constantly remind yourself, there is never enough time to do everything, but there is always enough time to do the most important things. Another way to identify the 20% is to track your activities and results for a week or two. At the end, analyze which activities produced the greatest results and which ones had minimal effect. This self-awareness will help you focus on what truly matters. The 80/20 rule is not a one-time insight. It is a principle you must apply daily, asking yourself repeatedly, is this task part of the critical 20%? If the answer is no, question whether it is worth doing at all. By committing to focus on the high-value activities and minimizing time spent on low-value ones, you can dramatically improve your productivity and results without necessarily working harder or longer. You simply work smarter, directing your energy where it counts the most. When you master the 80/20 rule, you stop measuring productivity by how many tasks you complete and start measuring it by the impact of the tasks you choose to complete. Part 4. Consider the consequences, 800 words. The ability to think long-term is one of the most important skills you can develop for success. Brian Tracy explains that the potential consequences of a task should be the primary factor in determining its priority. Tasks with significant long-term benefits should be done before those with little or no impact. When faced with a list of things to do, most people choose the tasks that are easiest or most urgent, regardless of their long-term importance. This is a mistake. The tasks that truly matter are often neither easy nor immediately urgent, but they have the power to shape your future in meaningful ways. Consider the question, what are the possible results of doing or not doing this task? Thinking in terms of consequences forces you to evaluate the true importance of each task. For example, preparing for an important presentation might be difficult, but the positive consequences such as career advancement or winning a client are substantial. Conversely, spending an hour browsing social media has little benefit and no lasting positive consequence. Brian Tracy divides tasks into 3 time horizons. Short-term immediate results but little long-term benefit. Medium-term results over weeks or months. Long-term results that may take years but have lasting impact. The most successful people focus on the long-term consequences of their actions. They are willing to invest time and effort now for benefits that will come later. This mindset requires discipline and vision, but it pays off enormously. For example, if you are a student, studying for exams may not give you an immediate reward, but the long-term consequence is higher grades, more opportunities, and a better career path. If you are a business owner, improving your product or service may not bring instant sales, but over time it builds customer loyalty and market share. By considering consequences, you also avoid the trap of urgent but unimportant tasks, activities that demand your attention but do little to improve your future. These can include minor administrative work, unnecessary meetings, or constant checking of emails. A practical exercise is to rank each task on your list according to its potential long-term impact. High impact will greatly affect your life or work for months or years. Medium impact will have a moderate effect for weeks or months. Low impact will have little or no lasting effect. Always aim to work on high impact tasks first. Even if they are difficult, the payoff makes them worth the effort. This approach also builds self-discipline. When you repeatedly choose to do the work that matters most, you train yourself to resist the lure of easy, low-value activities. Over time, you develop the habit of acting with foresight, and this habit becomes a key driver of your success. In short, every choice you make has consequences. By deliberately choosing tasks with the greatest positive long-term outcomes, you ensure that your time and energy are invested where they will bring the highest return. Part 5. Practice creative procrastination, 800 words. Procrastination is often seen as a purely negative habit, but Brian Tracy introduces an empowering idea, creative procrastination. Since you cannot do everything, you must deliberately decide what not to do. The truth is, you will always be procrastinating on something. The key is to ensure you are putting off low-value tasks so you can focus on the high-value ones. Creative procrastination begins with the understanding that time is finite. Every minute you spend on one activity is a minute you cannot spend on something else. When you choose to work on a task, you are automatically deciding not to work on others. Therefore, your goal should be to procrastinate on the least important tasks, freeing up time for those that matter most. Brian Tracy recommends applying the 80/20 rule here. If 20% of your activities produce 80% of your results, then 80% of your activities are candidates for creative procrastination. Identify these low-value tasks and consciously push them aside. One powerful strategy is the zero-based thinking question: if I were not already doing this, knowing what I know now, would I start doing it? If the answer is no, you should either stop the activity entirely or reduce the amount of time you spend on it. For example, perhaps you are attending a weekly meeting that rarely produces useful outcomes. If you were not already attending, would you choose to start now? If not, this meeting is a candidate for elimination or delegation. Creative procrastination is not about avoiding responsibility or being careless. It is about making intelligent, strategic choices. It requires courage, because it often means saying no to people, opportunities, or activities that do not align with your highest priorities. Many people fear that by letting go of certain tasks, they will miss out or disappoint others. However, the opposite is true. When you free yourself from low-value work, you gain the capacity to excel in high-value areas, delivering greater results and making a more meaningful impact. Here is a step-by-step approach to practicing creative procrastination. List all your tasks and responsibilities, personal and professional. Identify the low-value tasks, the ones with little or no long-term impact. Decide which tasks to drop, delegate, or delay indefinitely. Communicate your decision clearly to anyone affected, and explain the reasoning if needed. Reinvest the recovered time into high-priority work. For example, if you spend hours each week responding to non-essential emails, you could create a rule to check email only twice a day. This small change frees up time for deep, focused work that has a greater payoff. Tracy also emphasizes the importance of developing a tolerance for discomfort. High-value tasks are often more challenging and less immediately satisfying than low-value tasks. By choosing to procrastinate on the easy work, you force yourself to tackle the difficult but important tasks. Over time, this builds resilience and self-discipline. Ultimately, creative procrastination is about living with intention. It ensures that your limited time and energy are invested where they can create the most significant results. It is the art of consciously choosing what to ignore so that you can focus on what truly matters. Part 6. Focus on key result areas, 800 words. Every job, role, or business has a handful of key result areas, tasks or responsibilities that you must perform well to achieve success. If you fail in any one of these areas, your overall performance suffers, no matter how well you perform in other areas. Tracy defines a key result area as an outcome that you are solely responsible for delivering. It is not something you can delegate completely, and it directly affects your success or the success of your organization. For example, in sales, key result areas might include prospecting, presenting, and closing. In management, they might include planning, organizing, staffing, and supervising. The first step in focusing on key result areas is to identify them. Ask yourself, what specific results am I expected to achieve, and what must I do for my work to have the greatest value? Write these areas down. Most people will have between 5 and 7 key result areas. Once you have identified them, assess your current performance in each area. Rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 means you are performing very poorly and 10 means you are performing excellently. The area where you score the lowest is often your biggest frog, the area that, if improved, would have the most significant positive effect on your results. It is human nature to focus on tasks we are good at and avoid those we find difficult. However, your weakest key result area is likely limiting your overall success. By concentrating your efforts on improving in that area, you can dramatically enhance your performance. Improving a weak key result area requires commitment. You may need to seek training, find a mentor, or dedicate regular practice time to build your skills. Progress may be slow at first, but over time the improvement will be noticeable and impactful. For example, if you are a manager and your weakest area is delegation, you might start by learning techniques for assigning tasks effectively, then practicing those techniques until they become second nature. The result will be a more productive team and more time for you to focus on strategic priorities. Another benefit of focusing on key result areas is that it gives you clarity about where to direct your time. If a task does not contribute to one of your key results, it is either a low priority or not your responsibility at all. This clarity helps you avoid distractions and stay aligned with your goals. Tracy also points out that key result areas evolve over time. As your role changes, new responsibilities may become critical, while others become less important. Regularly reviewing and updating your list ensures that you are always focused on the right areas. When you consistently identify and strengthen your weakest key result area, you not only become more competent but also more confident. This confidence translates into better performance across all your responsibilities, creating a cycle of improvement and achievement. Part 7. Take action immediately, 800 words. Planning, prioritizing, and goal setting are valuable only if they lead to action. The habit of starting your most important task immediately and working on it without interruption until it is finished is one of the most powerful habits you can develop. Brian Tracy emphasizes the single-handling technique. Once you begin your A1 task, your biggest frog, you work on it exclusively until it is 100% complete. This prevents the loss of momentum and focus that occurs when you switch between tasks. Taking action immediately is often the hardest part. Many people wait until they feel ready or motivated, but in reality, action itself generates motivation. Once you start, momentum builds, and the task becomes easier to continue. A useful mental trick is to tell yourself, "Do it now." Do not give your mind time to talk you out of it. Begin immediately, even if you can only commit to a small step. Starting creates psychological commitment, making it more likely you will continue. To build this habit, create a morning ritual where you identify your biggest frog the night before and start on it as soon as you begin work the next day. Avoid opening emails or engaging in low-value tasks first thing in the morning, as they can quickly derail your focus. Eliminate distractions before you start. This might mean turning off notifications, closing unnecessary browser tabs, or finding a quiet place to work. Every interruption forces your brain to refocus, which wastes time and reduces efficiency. Another technique is to use time blocks. Commit to working on your most important task for a set period, perhaps 60 or 90 minutes without any interruptions. At the end of the block, take a short break, then resume. This approach leverages the brain's natural focus cycles and helps maintain high productivity. Brian Tracy reminds us that success is largely a matter of habit. The more often you take immediate action, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you will develop a reputation for reliability and effectiveness, which opens doors to new opportunities. Taking action immediately is also a form of self-discipline. It requires you to resist the temptation of easy, low-value tasks and commit to doing what matters most, even when it is uncomfortable. This discipline is a hallmark of high achievers in every field. The essence of this principle is simple but profound. Once you know what your frog is, jump on it without hesitation. The sooner you start, the sooner you finish, and the sooner you can enjoy the benefits of your accomplishment. Eat That Frog is a guide to overcoming procrastination and maximizing productivity by focusing on the tasks that matter most. The principles in this book, from gaining clarity and planning each day in advance, to applying the 80-20th rule, considering consequences, practicing creative procrastination, focusing on key result areas, and taking immediate action, form a complete system for achieving more in less time. The central metaphor reminds us that our biggest, most challenging task is often the one that will bring the greatest rewards. By identifying your frog and tackling it first each day, you build momentum, confidence, and discipline. Over time, this habit transforms not only your productivity but also your mindset and your life. Remember, there will always be more to do than you have time for. The key is to choose wisely, work with focus, and act with urgency. Decide on your frog, commit to eating it first, and watch as your results multiply and your goals move within reach.